This is Talk Radio.
Across the UK, online, on DAB+, and on the Talk Radio app. Evenings with Kevin O'Sullivan.
On Talk Radio.
Very pleased to be joined in person in the studio by the head voice at Young Voices UK, Jason Reed. Welcome, Jason.
Good evening, Kevin.
I want to talk something that I think will rile you up about. The Home Office is preparing for a third attempt to deport 50 Jamaican criminals convicted of serious crimes back to their homeland. We've tried twice before. The last time, 50 of them on a flight, all ready to go in December. And in swooped the immigration lawyers, as they always do. They lodged these last-minute 11-hour appeals saying, it's against their human rights and they were brought up here and, they wouldn't know what they were doing in Jamaica. So the last time, out of 50 violent and dangerous criminals, 13 actually left Britain. The rest remained. So we're having another go tomorrow. And what will happen almost certainly is we'll get another swoop by the immigration lawyer squads. They find some sort of sympathetic judge who, and they're usually told, look, this guy, although born in Jamaica, has spent most of his life here. He has a family here. It will be against his human rights, and therefore they can't go. And the judges, they make no kind of definitive judgment. They just say, this needs to be looked into, and so the violent drug dealers, rapists, and murderers remain in this country. It is a merry-go-round of lunacy, if you ask me.
It's a staggering incompetence from the Home Office. And of course, we are paying through our taxes for this ridiculous theatre of ferrying them back and forth between prison and the plane so they can get on the plane, then get off it again, then go back to prison and try again next week. And we're paying for their lawyers in the meantime as well. My main issue with this story is that it gives a bad name to immigration. I'm in favour of immigration. I think it brings a lot of benefits, but it's no surprise that then when the polling man turns up at people's doors to ask what they think of immigration, they say they're against it because all we hear from the government is this kind of thing. We never hear the story of the Singaporean entrepreneur who invented some new technology and created loads of wealth and created hundreds of jobs. Instead, the government's too busy, instead of creating visas for those people, the government's too busy ferrying rapists and murderers back and forth from prison and failing to deport them on our dime.
Yes, and don't forget we pay for these immigration lawyers. Trust me, the drug dealers and the violent criminals from Jamaica aren't paying for these lawyers. We, you, me, British taxpayers, we fund their legal cases. And I'm just wondering at the Home Office or what Priti Patel thinks. I mean, do they think that people in this country are going around going, it's very, very good that we, the taxpayer, are funding the ability of violent Jamaican drug dealers to remain in this country? I mean, why doesn't somebody say this is mad? This country, Britain, needs the ability to stick these breakers of our laws from a foreign country onto aeroplanes and send them home. Why is there no one thinking logically like that?
We tried to deport them once, we failed. We tried a second time, we failed again. I think it's incredible that this was in the newspapers before it's happened. If what they're trying to do is to deport them this time successfully, surely the last thing they should be doing is allowing it to get into the newspapers and telling everyone this is what we're going to do and when we're going to do it and these are the registration plates of the vans we're going to use so that the lawyers can prepare in advance and jettison it once again. It's just an incredible level of incompetence. And I think you're absolutely right that people do not want to stand for this kind of thing, and the Tories are going to suffer as a result of this at the next election if they don't clean up their act.
And, the defence of these people is always, they may be, I don't know, for example, 35 years old, and the chances are, often it is the case, they arrived here as 6-year-olds or something, or as kids, and they do know nothing else apart from Britain. That to them, this is their home country. So to send them back to Jamaica, for them, effectively, is to send them to a foreign country of which they know nothing. They'll find it culturally confusing. They'll find it discombobulating and, basically a pretty unpleasant experience. Don't forget they'll be put into jail when they get there anyway. But if they find it an unpleasant experience, I'll be honest with you, Jason, I don't care.
I'm struggling to have sympathy with the murderers and the rapists, to be honest with you. When you look at the write-up of this kind of story in places like The Guardian, they always lead with that line. They always say, with the splashy headline of the evil Tory government is trying to drag people who came to this country as children back to another country they didn't live in their adult life. And then in about line 47, they mention, almost as an afterthought, by the way, they're all violent rapists and murderers. Why are they staking their flag there? If you're really in favour of immigration, why would you, instead of touting the immense benefits of immigration, you're staking your flag with these small number of people, 30 people, who are all convicted criminals and representing to the country, this is what we believe in and this is what we support. And I want to know also about the protesters, the demonstrators alongside the lawyers who are trying to stop these people being loaded onto the plane. What are they thinking? Even Insulate Britain have more of a case. At least when they're sitting in the road, they're killing fewer people than those murderers probably killed. What are they doing?
Well, they think it's racist, but, this isn't something that solely happens to Jamaicans. I mean, it can happen to Albanians. It can happen to people, from the white races as well. So it's not really a colour of the skin issue. Now, I'm prepared to accept that some of this 50, they're probably borderline cases. The crimes they committed, next to some of the other crimes aren't that serious. But the point is, these people, they're officially guests in our country. And if you're a guest in a country and you choose to break that country's laws to the extent, don't forget, they've all been sent to prison. So none of these are frivolous offences. They're all quite serious. If you choose to break this country's laws to the extent that you have to be sent to jail, then frankly you've rescinded your right to stay here.
Violent criminals from other countries are not treated any more unfairly than violent criminals from this country who end up going to prison in exactly the same way. The only reason we don't send them anywhere else is because we don't have anywhere else to send them. Once upon a time we would have sent them to Australia and kept them detained there instead. This isn't an issue of race. Immigration is important. Human rights are important, but it's all being undermined by this kind of warped logic of people saying we need to use human rights and we need to use immigration laws in order to protect the worst people in society, the most violent offenders, and it undermines the benefits of immigration for the rest of us.
I don't know why we can't bring in a hard and fast rule. For example, if you commit an offence that warrants, shall we say, 2 years in jail or more, then you're susceptible to being deported, and it's not possible to appeal against that.
You would think that something like that would be logical, but of course there are perverse incentives going on. Those human rights lawyers don't want the law to be simplified too much.
They're doing very well out of our money.
Extremely well. Yeah, they want the law to stay exactly as it is now so they can get a new fee every time we do this ridiculous charade of carting people back and forth from the plane to see if we manage to deport them this time. They're raking it in. There is no incentive there to change the law. And in government, there's perhaps an incentive, but there's far too much incompetence to actually go ahead and do it.
You see, it feeds into, just before you came in, Jason, I was doing an item on the fact that this October just gone, 6 times more migrants came across the channel in dinghies than last October. So the rate of dinghies coming across the channel is now 6 times more than it was this time last year. And the reason they're doing this is because this country around the world is known to be the softest touch when it comes to immigration. What other countries say, you've arrived on our beach illegally, here's a hotel, if you want to leave, please do, here's some tea, would you like a pizza? What was it, down in Dover, I think it was, they spent their accounts for the RNLI local involved £6,000 for buying pizzas and my favourite sun hats. They got a bit too. So this plus the stuff we allow people who are living here, as a courtesy on our part, like these Jamaican criminals, the stuff we allow people to get away with and stay. Why are we such a soft touch when it comes to immigrants, do you think?
The fact that there are so many more dinghies crossing the channel, so many more refugees coming into the country that way is a total indictment, complete failure. It's the worst possible outcome from government immigration policy because There is no one who supports that, whether you're the most pro-immigration person in the world or the most anti-immigration. There is no people trafficking lobby which goes to the government and says these are the benefits of dinghies crossing the channel.
Yeah, I know, and there is the division between the authorities, the establishment, if you like, and the people. I mean, the people of this country, they're not racist. They just do not like the idea that people are coming across the channel willy-nilly, penetrating our borders illegally, and we're just going, hi, welcome, please stay. They don't like that. They want us to have sovereign borders, as Priti Patel is always preaching to us, and frankly, we don't, do we?
It's a very fundamental problem that we have in this country. I think a lot of other countries have too, to differing extents, which is that people in government, they've had very privileged lives. They don't care what real people like you and I actually think. So they just go and they do what they need to do in order to stay in government for long enough to be able to then go into the private sector and make a huge amount of money. They don't care about the real issues that, as you say, actual people care about.
And if you want to see the extent of the vast chasm between the ruling elites and the rest of us, look no further than COP26 right now, the biggest festival of hypocrisy I've ever seen in my life. A good comedy show, but if you didn't laugh, you'd cry. Jason, great to see you. Jason Reed, their head voice at Young Voices UK there.